This is now the space reverse the classroom, going through information before you actually do the topic itself. The route through, we talk about the solar system, we talk about the seasons, we talk about the phases of the moon, we talk about satellites, we talk about day and night, then we review, and then we're going to do an end of topic test. So what we've got here now is the solar system. And what you need to do is you need to know the order of the planets in the solar system. So what I always do is I always go my very easy method just speeds, can't spell speeds, up naming, then it all messes up because I'm not allowed to talk about Pluto anymore. So Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Right, they are then the planets in order, and you can just see from this diagram here, even though they're obviously not that close together, right, the distance from the sun, or the size of the sun compared to all of those. Now there is also something else, right, here, that is the asteroid belt, and that is found between Mars and Jupiter. Day and night. Now if you think about, here's me there, right, there's me, a little bit bigger than I am normally, right, so what I am is there, I'm stood on Brazil, make my legs a bit longer so I'm standing on Brazil, right, sun is over here to the left, so if the sun is shining on this half of the earth, then I'm going to be in daylight. Then what happens is, this blue arrow down the middle shows the earth spinning. So when the earth spins, I also spin in that direction. And as soon as I get where I'm standing in Brazil over onto the darker side, this darker side of planet Earth, I'm then in the night. Then what happens is I go all the way around the back, come back round to the other side, and as soon as I'm then looking at the sun again, or my half of the planet Earth is looking at the sun again, I then become into daylight. And obviously, one full day is 24 hours. That is me going from standing here in Brazil all the way around the Earth and back to exactly the same point. The seasons, it kind of works in a similar sort of way. So what you have is to go, let's start on the autumn, right? So this one, let's do a different colour, let's do yellow, right? Autumn at the top, and what happens is Earth is then orbiting the sun. What it does, it just keeps on going around the sun, orbit, 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 and that orbit takes 365.25 days, so 365 and a quarter, which sounds a bit weird, right? But if you think about it, a year, we normally call it 365. The following year is also normally 365. The following year after that is also normally 365. The year after that is 366, which is your leap year. And the leap year compensates for that extra kind of quarter of a year. And that's then why we have the leap years. Now the seasons themselves all kind of depend on how the Earth is actually leaning towards the sun. If you look at summer, planet Earth is kind of leaning towards the sun. So this top half here, that is then in summer. As then Earth goes all the way around, so I'll just do it in green now, as the Earth goes all the way around, it goes to autumn, and then it gets to here, to winter. Now, the top half of the Earth is leaning away from the sun, and when it leans away from the sun, it's further away from the sun, therefore it's winter. Satellites, right? People always think that that is a satellite, and it is. And what that is an artificial satellite. It's one that we've then put up. Now, what a satellite actually is, it's an object that orbits another object. So if I had stars going around my top of my head, right, they would be a satellite going around my head. But obviously we don't talk about it like that. Artificial satellites, they go around the Earth, and they can mostly be used for telecommunications or spying on people, things like that. And often satellites these days can be just literally the size of a shoebox. They can be very, very small. Natural satellites, our natural satellite, is the moon. And what that does is that's continuously going around the Earth, and it just keeps on orbiting. So our natural satellite is the Earth, and artificial satellites are things like for communication. Now, phases of the moon. Now what there's a lot of silly words that go in with this. There's the sun, and the sun is then shining onto the moon, and we then look at it from a different direction. Now this diagram kind of looks a little bit weird, but what these moons around the outside of the Earth are, that is what we see. So if the moon is here, the right hand side, this side here, is brightly lit. But because we're on Earth and we're looking at it from that direction, what do we see? We see it completely dark, and we don't see any moon at all. On the other side, what we do is we're looking at the moon from that direction. And because the moon is then behind us, away from the sun, it is completely lit up, and what we do is we see a full moon. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through all the different phases. So a new moon, there is basically no moon there, right? Even though there obviously is a moon there, we can't see it because the sun is directly behind it. Then it goes to a crescent waxing. Crescent is kind of the shape. Waxing means it's getting bigger. Crescent waxing again, crescent waxing again, crescent waxing again. Then it goes to half moon waxing. So half moon is where we can see half the moon. Then it goes to gibbous, which is then where the moon, the actual visibility of the moon is getting bigger. So gibbous waxing, gibbous waxing, gibbous waxing, gibbous waxing, full moon. Where now we can see the entire moon because the sun is now behind us and it's shining directly onto the moon. Then we have gibbous waning. Right, so gibbous is where you've got more than half the moon visible, and waning means it's getting smaller. So it's gibbous waning, gibbous waning, gibbous waning, gibbous waning, half moon waning. So we can see half the moon, but it's getting smaller. Crescent waning, crescent waning, crescent waning, crescent waning, new moon. And we're back to the start again. Now, the questions I'm now going to be asking. Okay, and you've got to write these down into your exercise books, write the questions, and then you write down answers after it. Name the planets in order from the sun, right? Let's miss off Pluto. Name a natural satellite, it's literally one word. What is it called when you cannot see a moon at all? You need to look back at the video and work out when I can't see any moon. What is in between Mars and Jupiter? You need to then have a look back at the diagram. Right, and then what I did was I then talked about what was in between Mars and Jupiter. What comes after a full moon? Go back through the video and look at what structure comes back after the full moon. Now, I absolutely love the space topic, right? It's dead interesting and it's the real world. But what you've got to do is you've got to learn those names, right? You've got to learn those names, you've got to learn those words to make sure that you know everything to do with space in this unit.